So just had a little conversation with a new member of the community here. And it's a conversation that I seem to have very, very frequently because, well, the first thing that we do when any coach or consultant joins the program is they go through what we call the Launchpad, and we create them a really, really, really good offer, right? Because offer is the most important thing in your business by far. Because, well, most people think of offer slightly differently. You know, everyone's got a different interpretation. But what we mean by offer is the thing you sell, how you actually do it, how you actually articulate it to your audience, and even things like the aspirational identity, who they become when they're inside, and what we call the signature process, which is your signature way of actually being able to get them the result, right? All of this creates your offer. And the offer truly is the most important thing inside your business, because, you know, ignoring everything else, even if, you know, you had really good content, really good marketing, really good ads, you're driving people in, there's no getting around a bad offer. Every single one of those things that I just listed, even referrals, every single one of those things that I just listed, they all drive back to one place, which is your offer. If your offer is not very good, you know, none of that other stuff is going to be very good. I actually experienced that myself, by the way. The reason that I'm so passionate about offers and helping coaches build a good offer is because for about 2 years, and I'm sure I'll do like a longer video on this, for about 2 years, I'd already built a 6-figure business at this point for multiple years. But then after that, I went through like 2 years of having a terrible offer, and everything else was good, but my money was just going down. There was one time where I even got like 20 sales calls in a month and I don't think I closed even one of them, right? Because I was doing everything else pretty well, but then the offer just wasn't good, you know, so everything else was on hard mode. Anyway, I'm sure I'll talk about that in another video. But on the other side, right, all of the things that I just spoke about, your content, your marketing, your ads, your lead, anything to do with lead generation, everything comes from the offer as well. When you've got a good offer, a good unique offer that works, the ideas within that that's selling and everything else drives everything else. So the offer is the most important thing. And in this real quick video, I just wanted to talk about one principle that we talk about all of the time inside offers that I was just having a conversation with this guy about, and it is that inside offers, specificity sells. Okay, so what I mean by specificity is being specific with what you actually do inside your offer and how you do it. So the biggest thing to be specific about is the outcome. If someone works with you for a certain amount of time, you decide the time frame, what actually happens? What's the actual outcome? I've looked at probably over 100 offers this year, right? And one of the biggest differentiating factors is if an offer is vague and it's not clear and it's not specific on what happens, especially when it comes to the outcome, it does not sell, right? So if you're using words like supercharge your productivity or become confident and all these things that aren't actually tangible things that are actually specific and easy to create a mental image around, it doesn't sell, right? But when you can make it tangible, when you can have numbers, when you can have specifics, when you can have actual real life things that change in the prospect's life, it sells. Now, there's a reason why people don't want to do this, because when you have tangible, specific outcomes that are binary, that by the end of, let's say, 90 days, people can actually say, I either got there or I didn't get there, it can be quite scary, right? Because now your neck's on the line because it can actually be tracked. If you say, oh, I'm gonna supercharge your energy and make you more confident, can't really be tracked because it's not tangible things, you know? Which makes you more comfortable on your side, but it doesn't make them very comfortable, which is why you don't get as many sales. So yes, it puts your neck on the line slightly. Now remember, it's not the outcome is not a guarantee. If it's a guarantee, it's different. But you can, without being a guarantee, you can say, over the next 90 days, our goal is to go through this process to get you to specific outcome. And it doesn't have to be a guarantee, but you do need to get specific with where you're going to go together, right? That allows you to almost shake hands and make the agreement that this is what happens when you work with me, and here's where we're going to go. It allows you to get specific with how you're getting there as well. And it allows, and this is most important, it allows your prospect to be able to actually have a vision, and this is the most important thing, right? It allows your prospect to actually have a mental vision and image of what life is going to be like on the other side of saying yes to you. That's really important. So if you're selling supercharge your energy or, skyrocket your confidence, that's so vague and so up for interpretation that you're not selling any future exciting vision for them because they can't really see it. It really, really, really relies on their interpretation of what do those things mean to actually get them moving, right? But when you can break it down to a tangible and specific outcome that your process is built around being able to allow them to actually achieve, and when you explain that outcome to them, they can actually see the vision of what their life will be like and who they will be like on the other side of working with you. When you can do that, they can now imagine working with you, imagine going through that process, and then they can make the decision whether they want to work with you or not. And it might be a no, right? I've done another video on here before where I speak about your offer must be clear enough to say no to, because it can be a no, and that's completely fine as well. But when it's vague, you often just get ignored because it can't really be a yes or a no, because they're just looking at it and they're like, sounds all right, but I don't really know what's going to happen. And they just kind of move on because they don't want to use the mental energy to kind of decipher what this really means for them. So let's take this onto you now. This was a little bit of theory. Let's take it onto you now. Look at your offer and ask yourself, is it specific? Could I show anyone this or anyone in your niche, and would they understand exactly how their life is going to change on the other side of this offer? Would they be able to understand that? Next, hopefully that's okay. Now next, would anyone in your niche be able to understand this, or does it require a high level of sophistication? That's the second piece, right? Because a lot of people, they don't specify what's going to happen in clear terminology. They use advanced language, or sometimes they just force the prospect to kind of come up with what's going to happen. So what I mean by that is sometimes I'll just leave it at, I'm a business coach, come and buy business coaching, where you just leave the whole entire thing up to interpretation of what your prospect actually thinks around business coaching, what they think is going to happen at the end of that. So have you got a clear promise where you're going to take them, an outcome? Is it tangible? And is it clear enough for them to be able to actually imagine their life on the other side with a time frame? If so, you are way closer to building a good offer than you were before. The second part, we won't go too deep into this now. So that's the promise. The second part is process. This allows the prospect to feel really, really safe to say yes, and to feel like you've got it under control. So once you've got a clear promise that's specific and tangible, the next part is, have you got a clear process? Can you run them through? We do this first, and then we do this, and then we do this. Can you run them through that process we do it just literally on a Google document, and we make sales through that. Can you run them through a process that says, I'm going to take you here, and we do it through these major 3 steps, so they feel safe in not only the fact that you've told them where they're going to go, but you've told them exactly how you're going to get them there as well, so they can see that you are the expert and you've got this all under control. If you've done those 2 things, you're going to be much further ahead than the coach that is just selling coaching, allowing the prospect to make up their decision of what that's really going to do for them, or the coach that's selling vague ideas and abstract language instead of specific and tangible things. So right now, think about that for yourself. Specific and tangible, things like numbers, things like fat loss, money made, time saved are good. I've even had one guy created an offer all around complete a creative pursuit of yours over the next 7 weeks. And that did well as well, because yeah, there's no numbers there, well, there's time, but there's no specific numbers there or anything else. But the person, as long as they've got a creative pursuit, can imagine their life with that complete, right? It's still clear and closed. So get specific with it. The more specific it is, the easier it's going to be to sell. And if you're having a hard time getting it specific, the next move is to shorten it, right? So if you're having a hard time right now making your offer actually specific, because what's probably happening is you're trying to focus on like way too many things at once. So let's say that's a 6-month offer. Sell them the first idea. So the first idea might be, well, what happens in the first 6 weeks? Because most of the time when we're selling people on like a 6-month offer with multiple different ideas inside, so it's hard to make specific, most of the time we're actually selling them on like 4 different journeys, all within that 6 months. And most of the time, the person that starts is completely different to the person within 2 months, 4 months, and 6 months. And they probably are going to struggle to buy into all of the ideas within that 6 months, right? So if you're struggling to make it specific and you've got like a longer time commitment, look at, can you break that down, chunk it down into that first step so it can be specific, and just sell them at that first 6 weeks. Easier to sell, easier to get them on board, and now they're in your world. You can continue working with them afterwards to the next step and the next step and the next step. So that is a video. Specificity sells. If you're struggling to sell your offer or sell it more frequently, and by the way, you might be able to sell it in long, drawn-out sales cycles, like with like couple free coaching calls and sales calls and stuff like that. But what's probably happening there is you're just actually sitting down with them and creating the goal with them. But that's hard to scale. Whereas if you can decide the goal for them without them even needing to speak to you, and they can decide yes, and then they can join, everything runs much smoother. So if you're struggling to sell your offer, make it more specific. If you're still struggling to sell your offer, make it more small and specific, and you will have a much funner time.